It's at last the final part of trying not to conquer the world as Luxembourg. In the previous part, we did some more landings in the USA and linked up a Californian front with our Texas front, now covering the entire southern USA border. So we have quite a bit of the USA now occupied, but we need quite a bit more to finish them off, so we've got more invasions we still have to make. Some of those troops are going to be going right towards Washington, and you can see the Comintern actually beat me to it on this one. They managed to land some troops almost at Washington. They've got some guys in Baltimore where there is a port, so we could just land our troops normally here. But I think I had something already on the way. So we're going to go up there with some forces and try to help out with that one. There are also some fights happening on the west coast because somebody managed to land near Portland, and I've thrown in some spammed mechanized infantry to help out with that front. And you can see we haven't quite got things sorted out. There are bits of enemy territory behind us there, but we are establishing a continuation of the line we had before. This doesn't really help. It might even make things worse because so many more troops will now pour in to defend this. We'll have even fewer supplies, but it looks better and it does push us towards having more victory points and the like. Plus it may help with our ability to push north and take more ports at Seattle and Vancouver, which are my other two goals in that area. Now at Washington, I land a massive pile of comrades' divisions, and now we want to get to work. Obviously the goal here is to just move one tile over and have the enemy capital, not only for the port that's there, but for the glory of being the first in. We need to make sure it's us that gets to their capital. Unfortunately, there's quite a lot of stuff there. It's got level 10 forts and tons of divisions. So we're going to do some headbutting essentially. We sit there defending for a bit, the enemy lose some of their organisation, then we immediately fail to attack them. There's so much stuff defending that tile that our guys just get absolutely owned and their organisation disappears. The enemy's stats continue to be much higher than us when they're on the defensive. However, we just do that annoying thing and manage to take this place anyway. We just constantly attack over and over again until by random chance, due to the RNG mechanic thing, the enemies can't reinforce and all of their divisions have to leave after the first one falls back. So, with this incredibly cheeky method, we actually do take Washington and the tile below it as well. So with this, a major milestone has been reached, the glory has been acquired, the USA's morale must be dropping lower and lower. Washington is a nuclear wasteland, technically, but we're going to ignore that. The issue is that their capital just moves somewhere else. What I hoped was that by taking their capital it would interfere with their supplies. I mentioned this last time, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't because it just moves the capital, and I guess the supply lines then start from some other location. So it's actually better, is it, to go and take all of the territory around the enemy capital but not the capital itself? I don't think that's possible because the AI would just take the capital, but something worth thinking about, a possible exploit. In the west, we actually didn't take Portland. We've taken this area around it. The most important thing is that we have the naval base. That's all I'm really looking for rather than victory points. And that's why instead of going for Portland, I'm looking to the north to go for the other naval bases up near Seattle. So I'm ordering some troops here to go and try to take the next tile to the north. That attack is going to fail. We're actually going to be stuck there for a while because pushing out of that little block is more difficult than I thought it would be. Although in the east things are going quite well. We push forward a tile near our Washington pocket, and now we can start thinking about going for Philadelphia. There's me using my newly found tactic of actually bothering to split these armies up so the different smaller groups can do different things. Philadelphia isn't that heavily defended, so we end up just storming our way in there and taking its key port, expanding further our pocket in this area. It comes with a whole bunch of freebies. Some of the regions nearby were just undefended, so we'll capture a bunch more territory in this area. And then we'll keep going. You can see at the top right of the screen, we're approaching the New York pocket that's been sitting up there for a while, split off from the rest of the war. We can actually unify that with our Washington pocket, and that's only a short distance away from being unified with the East Coast pocket in general. So we're moving towards the entire East Coast being under our occupation. In order to help, I nuked Newark there, and that of course means we do now have air superiority over the East Coast theatre in general. And you know what that means? It's time for the Comintern to pick a random spot on the map and just nuke it to pieces for no reason. So the Comintern obviously built up some nukes they want to get rid of. As for me, I'm going to nuke some more useful things. I looked around for enemy air bases I could nuke and just blew up a few. because we know that's going to delete a whole bunch of planes, a whole bunch of the enemy's crew, and it's going to ruin the air bases themselves, which limits the number of missions they can do against us. Overall, just prolonging our air superiority. We actually do lose it again shortly after this, but these nukes certainly help out. I also nuked a spot on the other side of the river here at Harrisburg, I think that says, I can't read it on this screen. Someplace. The idea being it would be nice for us to have a bridgehead on the other side of that big river to further our advances in the future. Presumably we're gaining air superiority because the USA have to send planes to lots of different air theatres at the moment due to the fact there's stuff going on all over the place. My attacks towards Seattle have failed. We're going to have to come back to that. For now I'm focusing on the east because stuff seems to be happening here. We are starting to link up now with this pocket near New York. I think we might already be linked up with it, but I tried to advance another tile to make it look a bit better. This advance actually fails, so I'm going to end up just kind of setting up shop here. In an ideal world, we'd find a way to get the tile to the right in supply, because then we'd have tons of extra troops to help us out. Probably not going to happen, and our pocket is also not in supply right now. We've put too much stuff in here. And once the Comintern finds out how well this is going, they're going to ruin it as well. So we're obviously moving towards our momentum disappearing. But we have made some progress with this, and I'm hoping to make a bit more progress, as I said, to the other side of this river. There's a successful attack against some already nuked stuff. We're going to get across, and we're going to try and exploit that little gap to go to the north and take the airbase nearby, and to the south to help us link up with the East Coast pocket in general. It does take a little bit of nuking to seal the deal, as with any good deal. Because stuff's walking backwards and forwards on the front line, things kept moving into the tile I'm trying to take. We have no supplies and we're making a river crossing, so it takes us ages to actually get into the tile after winning the battle for it. Pretty inconvenient, so we're making a supporting attack here to try and stop the enemy reinforcing at the same time. We keep winning the tile, and there we go, we get in there eventually. And now we're going to try and make some supporting attacks nearby, because everything is currently in a state of disrepair due to being nuked quite a lot. So we can make a bigger bridgehead on the other side. It doesn't actually go very well, and all of my initial attacks are repelled. And you know what they say, if at first you don't succeed, nuke them again. We nuke everything in this area some more. So now there are plenty of nearly dead enemy divisions, and I figured maybe now we can push out, but we still have difficulties. We're still getting the old winning-losing battle situation thing. That battle there's an actual losing battle. That's because I'm crossing a river that you can't see behind the smoke. All inconvenient. It's so difficult to just advance a tiny bit. I think these American armies are just straight up good. There's not too much we can do about that, other than nuke them a lot, which debuffs them. We eventually start overwhelming the area with an airfield in it. But of course that airfield's going to be so damaged now that it's going to be useless to us. Still nice to take from the enemy just because though. And we eventually do achieve that and then link up our front lines on the other side of the river to make things nice and neat. Then I checked the war score situation. We've nearly won. The USA's at 99% capitulation. We just have to do something to them, take a few more tiles, and they might just give up. So that was good. I had no idea we were that close at this stage. We just have to push and try to take something, but at this very moment, on the eve of victory, things go a bit wrong because the USA finally notices things are pretty bad for us on the East Coast, and they start pushing into us, where we have all of these no organization divisions that easily get pushed back, and we do lose a whole bunch of territory down there. Soon they fought their way back to 96% capitulation. They're also doing offensives against my area up here, but with all of our high quality divisions manning the front line and with decent amounts of organisation, we are able to hold them off and at least sustain this area. The New York pocket's going to get shrunken a little bit by those attacks as well, but nothing too bad. We're still close to winning, but we came extremely close and have now bounced back away a little bit. We're running low on nukes, so that's not going to be an option soon enough. We need to just somehow grab some territory. For this I have now brought back our stack of tanks. The goal here is to get towards Richmond to the south, because that's probably a victory point and it would help us link up our pockets from the Washington to the general East Coast one. So off we go, doing the inefficient attack with all of the divisions at once maneuver, which effectively means you're not attacking with most of the divisions. We can widen the front with this attack across a strait that's not really marked as a strait, so that's a handy one. I should have, of course, split the tanks up to do those multiple angle attacks as well, but obviously I wasn't playing that well. Here's another not particularly good move, although it's partially for mysterious reasons. I was trying to land our Icelandic troops behind the lines up near Seattle so that I could back attack the enemy and maybe break through. But as you might have spotted just earlier, the Icelandic army is missing half of its strength for some reason, and all of the divisions are suspiciously similarly damaged. I'm not sure, but I think they might have got nuked at their staging point before I told them to go and I just didn't check or something as usual. So they're in a little bit of a bad situation as they go to perform a super dangerous mission, landing in an out of supply pocket. The plan, of course, being that we are quite close to being in supply. We just have to push the enemy off a couple of these tiles and we can take ports, or at least link the Ice Boys in with the existing pocket to the south. The problem is, at half strength, they're going to struggle to do that, especially against an entrenched enemy. We do though have a massive stack of divisions we can attack from the other side at the same time. I figured this might do something. It does absolutely nothing. We didn't even reduce their organization at all with those attacks, so we are screwed. I was aware of the danger of landing the Ice Boys behind enemy lines and that they might get stuck like this, but I figured they'd actually break through, especially because I have backed them up with a bunch of tanks as well. But it doesn't even work a tiny bit. As I said, we're able to get some theoretically going our way battles, but they always turn, our guys always disengage, the enemy's organization isn't going down, their stats are through the roof, we can't get anywhere near their stats. And that's that, literally, for the Ice Boys. They're going to die because of that move. I was pretty annoyed at myself for setting their failure up. Also, I was annoyed about the Richmond front, because while I felt sure my 20 tank divisions would be able to sneak their way in there, it wasn't happening. Had to deploy some more nukes. We had the classic thing where, because we don't have fuel as usual, we can't really move, so we can constantly win battles for Richmond, but we can't move into the tile, because someone else will just move in as the AI automatically fills in its own front line with its faster moving units. So it's just battle after battle. Inevitably we'll eventually lose one due to RNG or something, and then we get teleported back to the start point, you have to start driving again and it takes another week. You know the cycle, I've complained about it before. So, Richmond takes a pounding, the whole place is getting nuked, we're defeating many enemy divisions, but not making very much progress, and after a whole bunch of cycles, we didn't get in there and I pulled the tanks off the line. Here are the Ice Boys getting defeated. This time I actually looked at it. Our tanks are already dead, and here go the infantry. Really annoying, because while they were by far our worst troops, there was something loyal and nice feeling about the Ice Boys, especially because they're not actually from Luxembourg. They were just working for us for reasons that I have no recollection of. I don't know why they were our vassal state. They just are. With their defeat, I'm pulling all of my no supply, underleveled, terrible mechanized infantry troops off the front line to improve supply situation stuff there. Overall, a failure. And the same thing in Richmond. Here's me analysing some battles that we are apparently winning, and there's us losing the battle. Still pretty annoyed about this whole UI thing that I ranted about before. All we can do is constantly restart the battle in the way that the AI does, and eventually you might actually win it if you get lucky. In this case, we did not get lucky, but the Comintern have achieved something good on the Western Front. They finally made a landing somewhere that's useful to us, Vancouver. So they've landed somewhere with a port, meaning we can also land behind them. I'm sending in this legion to eat all of their supplies and maybe achieve something. The main goal we can achieve from here really would be cutting off Alaska entirely so that maybe some naval invasions down the coast can work, or going south and trying to take Seattle. For now we start pushing into the mountains, doing some nice no organization attacks. This looks like it would fail. It actually did work somehow. We actually ended up pushing through with no organization and taking those mountains. Not that that really helps us very much. I redeployed the tanks to help out with the New York pocket, which has been reduced in size a bit. I thought, let's push north up from New York and try to make this look a bit better. It goes pretty well at first. We push the enemy back and take Yonkers, which I refuse to believe is a real place. And then we carry on up to Albany to enjoy some steamed hams, but after that it starts going quite badly. The enemy kept attacking us from all sides, many of the tank divisions kept routing back south, and I eventually decided to start bringing them all back south and to just get out of there again. I'm essentially making what I call supply attacks. You attack for like 3 days, run out of fuel, and then go back to Bermuda to find more fuel for the tanks. At the same time though, a supporting infantry attack from the Washington pocket does allow us to make this front line look a bit nicer by capturing that triangular region in between the two pockets. So it's not really two pockets anymore, they're going to be officially joined up. That's nice, but no particular progress made once again. In the Vancouver pocket, I did this miniature naval invasion with a few spare units. I thought I'll swoop around to be next to Seattle, and then I can either push north or south to extend the Vancouver pocket or capture Seattle. But it doesn't work, because that question mark division standing on that random tile is enough to stop us, and then I attempt to call off the naval invasion by getting them to go home. It can be done, it's just a little bit hard to click on things apparently. And there we go. We have expanded our Vancouver pocket, and it's about to expand a bit more, but that's not achieving a great amount. Speaking of not achieving a great amount, I also tried to go for Portland again, since we could grab some victory points there. I'm advancing onto the tile next to it with a bunch of stuff. This thing says I'm really easily winning the battle by a massive amount, but we're just not. The enemy's organization isn't going down, so I don't know what these numbers are or what that balance bar is. It doesn't seem to represent the rate at which things are changing, or at least it doesn't represent what the result is going to be as a result of current rate of changes, I should say. I've already ranted about it several times, so I won't do it again, but that was annoying. Now it's time for a big push with our tank stack just moving west out of the Washington pocket. We just need to capture some stuff. And in this area, a lot of the enemy's forts have been recently nuked, so it's a bit easier to advance here than in other places. And we are able to grab a few random corners and start pushing that front line forwards very slowly with some no-fuel tank charges. Using the infantry as well to support, we can squeeze out these juicy enemy salients right here. And our tanks probably are much better at attacking the enemy than our infantry are. I still don't really know how it works, something to do with the breakthrough stat, reducing the enemy's effective stats or something. The game doesn't explain it, but a few places on the internet did or something. Basically, we do advance and take a bunch of tiles. We're being attacked all over the place. The enemy are making constant and regular counterattacks, but they're not succeeding. We have quite a few troops here. Too many obviously, but not quite so many that we're really out of supply. We still have some organization for attacks, and we're going to keep making them. We're also still winning, I suppose. With the Vancouver pocket, it's very slowly expanding as we fight these surely very brutal and slow battles over the winter mountains. But this is the more important front. Our tanks are pushing forwards, and now we can do the old divide the army up strategy a little bit, to start using different groups of tanks to do different things all at once, which I really should have been doing the entire time, of course, but we're going to do it a little bit now, and otherwise be very cynical about the concept of combat width, which is essentially why I can't have 20 divisions attack at the same time, but I always assumed I could, something. This goes pretty well actually. Our groups of tanks start rolling down the front line and making flank attacks as the infantry push forwards. This is how you're supposed to do it, I guess. And it does work, but we've also got some empty tiles to the west we can move into, and some very poorly defended tiles as well. You might see there's a victory point just a few tiles to my west now, so I started driving towards that with everything that I could, and we just took it just then. We now have Pittsburgh, and I thought, is that enough? Will they capitulate? Well, yes, apparently. It's at 100%. So now I'm sitting here thinking, well, please surrender. I've won, guys. You're dead. Please admit it. And boom. I was so happy to see this peace treaty screen, because I played to the end of this war in a gigantic 5-hour session, so I was on the actual edge of death in real life just trying to end this thing, and we've finally reached the conclusion of World War IV. So all that remains to be seen is what the world's going to look like after this peace treaty, so let's take a look. The first thing that happens once the treaty's over is it shows me this scoreboard, thus representing that we've completed the game, I guess. It says we've come 23rd, although the table there shows us in 3rd place behind the USSR, and Communist USA strangely in 2nd. I felt like Communist USA didn't do that much, but I guess they've inherited so much stuff they've got a big score or something. Inconvenient, so I don't know how well we did. We either did extremely well or pretty well. Overall, we've still survived until the very end. That's something, both in the game and in real life. Not really sure what all these scores mean. I don't think there's any elaboration available, but yeah, I guess the USSR does kind of control the world now, so that's fair. Virtually everything is their puppet state at this stage. So let's look around and see how things are. Here's the USA, the site of the end of World War II, now completely controlled by the communists. I guess this is what we wanted all along, so that's a victory. We've got our random bit of territory back that we got in World War III up in Canada, so that's ours now. Vancouver Island is ours as well because of that. That's useful, maybe, I suppose. Probably not. Further south, we still have Cuba, since we took it by cheating, so there's not much that could happen with that. But we got Haiti legitimately. We did already control it, but it was actually Germany's occupied territory or something. Now it's officially ours, so combined with Cuba, that's a nice little section to have. We also have another nice pair, Panama and the Panama Canal, so we control this super strategic location for trade and naval stuff. That's going to make us a big player on the world stage for sure. So overall, our Caribbean control is pretty decent. In South America, we have Ecuador for some reason. We also have Paraguay for some reason. So these little 2 organs within South America will be ours. Not sure how useful they're going to be, but it's nice to have a bit of presence there. Africa is unfortunately where we're weak. We haven't been able to take much in Africa because everything is already a puppet state of the USSR, or it's part of the old British Empire, which is still somehow going at this stage. We do, though, have Yemen for some reason, so we have a little bit of a base in this area we could use. There's an air base and a port there, so that's handy. Now moving up into Europe, we still have control of the sort of West Germany type state that we annexed, and all of our World War III victories like Czechoslovakia. I also took Franken there, which I think I didn't control, I can't quite remember. And we took this random slice in between Belgium and the Netherlands. Not particularly useful, but it's an extra port or something, I guess, or a chance for an extra port. And it's annoying, so it's always nice to annoy our neighbours, isn't it? We still have Ireland after I cored it using cheats effectively, so we couldn't lose that one. I would have Tibet right now if I'd known the game more earlier, but now we have a nice companion to Tibet, Yunnan, the next little area over, one of the Chinese sub-areas, which goes quite well with Thailand, which we now also have for whatever reason. Didn't even really know they were in the war. Apparently they were on the enemy side and they lost, so now they've been taken over by us. We also have the Philippines, which was also a place taken effectively by cheating. I took the north end by cheating actually. I think these southern islands I didn't occupy, so maybe I took them legitimately in the piece, I can't quite remember. The Philippines is a pretty good place to have, because all of these islands are kind of different areas in the game, meaning they can have their own construction queues, which allows there to be billions of different ports and loads of air bases in this very confined area, giving us great strategic control over this part of the map by controlling that area. We also have Hainan Island as well, of course, near China. So that's that. Looks like we control a decent amount of places around the world, good strategic control of a few key locations, and of course, speaking of our parent alliance, the Comintern, things are looking pretty good for them. Some natural Comintern allies, like Mexico here, aren't in the Comintern, but maybe we can do something about that. I have been gradually trying to get Nicaragua to have a communist uprising, although with the lack of world tension that might not matter. World tension is actually higher now than it used to be because the peace treaty has annoyed so many people. I think they preferred the nuclear war, I'm not quite sure, or maybe they're annoyed that the USSR is effectively taking over the world. In my headcanon, the world is kind of divided now between the Marxist-Leninist communist states and the Marxist-Devinist ones, the ones that effectively just became communist by referendum and the ones that are revolutionary Vanguard Party style ones. So World War V will likely be Luxembourg leading the less authoritarian communists against the more authoritarian communists, but we're not going to keep playing for World War V. I don't think we could even actually organise a new faction to get something like that going. And I don't really think we'd win either, given that the USSR does have quite a lot of stuff. We'd have to fight all of Africa at the same time, for starters, and they've probably been building things in the background during that last war that they weren't really participating in. Anyway, all that aside, it seems we've come to an end, and we've come to a most glorious victory. It's time for everyone to go home. It's difficult to organise because guys that aren't already by the coast won't walk to the coast if you give them an order that requires them to go to the coast first, annoyingly. But I guess if I really wanted to, I could bring the troops home here. Addendum to our list of places conquered, we also got Korea, which I forgot about earlier apparently. So that's nice, another part of the world with a nice region for us to control, and a whole country as well. So Luxembourg does control quite a few whole countries and random areas. We're basically Germany, plus with a substantial empire all across the world. So in many ways, our try not to conquer the world as Luxembourg challenge has failed, because we've not only conquered the world, but we're barely Luxembourg anymore as well. A final shout out to this guy, our Field Marshal, who was our first general. This guy saw all of the wars. Maybe he even saw World War I before the game started. And he led us to glorious victory through all of these conflicts, with of course the guiding hand of Charles Marx and his genius military strategies that he got off the internet. Good show to all involved. Please say something nice about me in your memoirs, Field Marshal, or there'll be dire consequences, of course. This is the end of this series. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll play Hearts of Iron 4 again sometime.